The price of a yes. For a long time, I wore the badge of the reliable friend with pride. I was the one who never said no, who always showed up, always stepped in. Whether it was taking on extra work, lending a patient ear to someone's troubles, or tirelessly helping others patch up their crises, I was there. On the surface, this looked like compassion. And honestly, I liked being the dependable one. It made me feel important, needed. But beneath the surface, I was quietly falling apart. Each day I felt more depleted, like I was pouring from an empty cup. And the more I gave, the more invisible I felt, as if I was disappearing from my own life. There's one night I can't forget. I had spent hours comforting a friend and then rushed to help a coworker move furniture. By the time I finally made it home, I was too exhausted to even warm up dinner. My entire day had been spent caring for others, and I had nothing left for myself. Lying in bed that night, a wave of anger hit me, but it wasn't directed at them. I was angry at myself. I had handed out every ounce of my energy, my time, my presence, and had given none of it to the person who needed it most, me. That moment cracked something open. It wasn't kindness anymore. It was quiet self-abandonment. In trying to be everything for everyone else, I had forgotten how to be anything for myself. My identity had withered because I never protected it. I didn't even know what I wanted anymore, and my own needs were always at the bottom of the list if they made the list at all. What I was experiencing had a name: emotional overextension. It's the constant giving of emotional energy to others without keeping any for yourself. It's saying yes when every part of you is screaming no. The result is burnout, deep resentment, and a sense of self that slowly dissolves. Mental health experts warn that chronic people-pleasing can lead to exhaustion, internal bitterness, and the loss of identity. That surge of resentment I felt that night wasn't a fluke. It was a flashing warning sign. I had stretched myself so thin for so long that I'd built up a backlog of frustration I didn't even know existed. The truth is, I was the one who allowed it to happen. I didn't speak up or set limits. I gave and gave, secretly hoping someone would notice or reciprocate. When they didn't, I felt bitter. But how could they have known? I had trained them to expect my constant availability. That was the hardest pill to swallow. My giving wasn't as selfless as I believed. A small hidden part of me gave in hopes of being appreciated, seen, and loved. When that silent hope went unmet, I felt wounded. It's a trap so many of us fall into. We bend and stretch ourselves to keep others happy, then feel crushed when they don't return the favor. The painful truth is that we train them to expect it. So, why do we do this? For many, it starts in childhood. We may have learned early on that being good or helpful was the safest way to gain love or avoid chaos. We learn to swallow our needs and focus on everyone else's. Psychologists call this self-abandonment, where we sacrifice our emotional truth for approval. It becomes our default setting, keeping the peace, avoiding conflict, and staying small to feel accepted. In my case, I was terrified of saying no, afraid of upsetting anyone. I worried that if I stopped being the easy one, I would lose love or belonging, so I tied my value to being needed. Realizing this was the start of everything changing, I finally faced the uncomfortable truth. I was giving too much because I was afraid of rejection, of being forgotten, of not mattering. That reckoning, while painful, was also liberating. To reclaim myself, I had to stop this silent erosion before it became permanent. That meant building boundaries, not to shut people out, but to protect what little of me was left. I often describe that time as the season I lost myself. I had become whoever others needed me to be, always adaptable, always agreeable. But when I looked inward, I didn't even know who I was anymore. This is identity collapse. When the real you is buried under masks, worn to fit in, please others, or keep the peace. You wake up one day and can't tell where others end and you begin. That was me. I had no strong opinions, I deferred decisions. I laughed at jokes I didn't find funny. I had become a supporting role in my own life. Healing meant rediscovering myself not as someone's helper or fixer, but as me. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming your authentic self, free from the expectations of others. For me, it began with something simple: saying no. Each no I gave, each moment I voiced what I truly felt, brought back a missing piece of me. It was scary. I worried. Will they still like me if I stop bending? But I kept going. I also learned I needed solitude. After years of being tuned into everyone else, I couldn't hear my own thoughts, so I sat in silence. At first, it felt foreign, even painful. But in that stillness, something powerful emerged. I heard my inner voice again. I started remembering what I loved, what made me laugh, what dreams I had buried. Bit by bit, I felt myself return. With every realization came another truth. I needed boundaries, not as walls, but as outlines the shape of who I was. A boundary simply says, this is what I can give, and this is what I can't. It's self-respect in action. At first, setting them made me nervous. I feared I'd be seen as cold or distant. But then I remembered what Brené Brown said. Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. And that's exactly what it was. Self-love. Yes, people noticed the shift. Some were disappointed. But each time I drew a line, I reminded myself, I matter too. I had to unlearn the lie that disappointing someone equals failure. It doesn't. It just means you're being honest. I started small. I told a friend I couldn't talk after a certain time. I declined extra work when I was maxed out, and most people understood. The ones who didn't had been benefiting from my lack of boundaries all along. Those moments helped me see which relationships were mutual and which were built on one-sided giving. I stopped feeling used because I stopped offering myself as a resource without limits. Each time I honored a boundary, I felt more whole. My anxiety lessened. I felt more peace because I was no longer betraying myself just to keep the peace. I also gained clarity. Before, I was so wrapped up in other people's lives that I couldn't tell their emotions from mine. I was always reacting, always carrying what wasn't mine. With boundaries, I learned to care without carrying, to support without sinking. One unexpected gift was the ability to pause. I no longer felt the urge to instantly say yes. I gave myself space to ask, do I truly want to do this? That pause changed everything. Some yes responses stayed, but they came from a place of peace, not guilt. Other times I said no gently and clearly. And the world didn't fall apart. In fact, my world got quieter, calmer, more me. Learning to say no also meant learning to say yes to myself, to early nights, to slow weekends, to time spent without guilt. These were small shifts, but they gave me back my life. I stopped living for others' expectations and became the caretaker of my own well-being. I reclaimed my power not by fighting, but by choosing. My time and my energy are mine now, and I protect them with love. Power, I realized, isn't in constant yeses. It's in the courage to say no when it matters. As I honored my needs, I became more authentic. I asked for help. I let go of the fear that no made me unkind. Some connections deepened. Others dissolved. And that was okay, because I had stopped abandoning myself for comfort. The journey wasn't perfect. Sometimes I still fall back into old habits. But now I recognize it, and I course correct with compassion. That's the real transformation, knowing I've got my own back. And maybe, just maybe, that's what self-love truly means. F.